What's up, everybody? Okay, we could actually do this correctly the second time I try. Good to see everybody here this morning or your evening, wherever you are in the world. Of course, I'm Andrew Esquire, and welcome to the Legal Mindset, where we teach you to be your own judge. We've got a good one for you today, going through the new counterclaims, the Disney Strikes Back, and also Florida, which is going to promptly pimp hand them right back. Good to see you guys. I'm really glad to be here as well tonight. We're rocking out on YouTube, on Rumble. We're on Locals, every single platform here in the morning. And it's good to see all of you guys here today. Of course, just to check, I need to see enough live buttons in the chat in order to justify the fact that I'm actually live now and not premiering. But also, big shout out to Don Moore with the Gator logo. Always love a good Gator. Love a good Gator. Welcome to the RPG, the Replay Gang here today, and good to see you. Appreciate you, Dan. The more people that are members, the further we go in this channel, and it really helps out to support. There have been some of you that have come big with the gifting memberships lately, and it has really helped to turn the chat into a sea of green. I really love to see it. Pretty much everybody's green at this point. There's a couple of hangouts, though. There's a couple of hangouts to see, like Ice Cold Wolf, Andrew Hansen, Ben. Someone's got to get Ben a gift membership. It's got to happen. But good to see everybody up in the house today. So yeah, we're going to be going through the claims. And then after this, I have a little bit of a surprise. So I have a little bit of a surprise for everybody today. So I actually, for the first time ever in the history of Legal Mindset, this has never happened. This is a first. This is my virginity, and I'm going to talk about it live. I'm going to be talking about losing it really live, which is something you guys should smash the like button for, because not everybody's willing to talk about it openly and notoriously like I am. So you got to be willing to talk about it, but I am. So we're going to talk about that tonight. But what happened is I lost my virginity for editing a video. I actually edited a video today. I know. It's crazy. It's nuts. I'm really lazy. I'm not going to lie. Full confession, I do not like doing any of the behind the scenes stuff. But I said, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to actually go in here and edit it. So your boy, Andrew Esquire, Legal Mindset, actually edited a premiere, which will be starring after this one on Bambi. So God forbid, it's going to be ghetto as hell. It's going to be crazy. But I actually made minor changes. I know, it's crazy. Actually, it's actually a lot of changes. Actually, I use the dissolve wipe way too much. So probably it's going to go to another type of wipe afterwards, but I just like dissolve today. So yeah, the first edited video ever, Legal Mindset, that's edited by me. So you're yours truly, just popping my cherry left and right and doing it for you guys. I only do it for you guys. Also, welcome Karen Parrish back as a member. Karen, I think you were a member before, but regardless of whether you were before and you're returning again, welcome to the Legal Mindset. Whether it's your first time, your last time, we welcome you. We welcome you, one and all. And of course, we've got enough people asking whether this is live. We've got sufficient people asking whether this is live. I think I saw some live emojis. Pastor Flash is on it. Otto's on that live emoji, rocking that live emoji. That's exactly what I love to see, is all those live emojis. You guys gotta drop those in the chat here. I'm gonna spam out a couple live emojis here. We got live. There you go. Spam those out. So much it lags my. Oh God. I think I just crashed the stream based on the number of live emojis. Okay, there you go. It's good emoji. It's good stuff. Also, use that Castle on Fire. That's one that's underrated. A lot of people sleep on it because it's new, but you got to do that, because guess what? It's on fire, and not in a good way. Not in a good way. Let's see. Cerber Wonders says live. Yes, perfect. I love to see members double teaming, i.e. using the emojis and their free member chats. So appreciate that. Complimentary member chats. It's good to see that. Just like a super chat when you come in here. And obviously, I pause everything for my members because you guys are important too. Other people may not care, but Legal Mindset, I care. I really care. Now, let's jump right into it today with our topic. I'm not going to beat around the bush too much. So we're jumping right into it with the Disney lawsuit, and we are going to be dealing with the Florida lawsuit. So as always, I am going to show you guys, because I do it live, I do it raw, I do it original. We're going to show you here on the Orange County Clerk. This is the Orange County Clerk for the state of Florida, not Orange County, California. No California stuff here. This is Florida. No Gavin Newsom allowed. And this is the case. So obviously there was a federal case and there's a state case. Now, in the beginning, Disney just wanted to talk about the federal case because the federal case was oh so much more important for them, for their narrative. But I always told you guys, the state case is where it's at. And ultimately, this will be decided in the state case. Of course, your boy, Legal Mindset, was right. I just say I told you so. And everything has ended up in the state case. So what Disney is now doing is they are taking their claims that were blown out of the water in the federal case. So everything they got blown out on in the federal case, they're going over and trying to shove that into the state case. Now, there is a pending motion for summary judgment here. There's a pending motion for summary judgment. It's waiting for a ruling. So we are waiting for a ruling on that motion for summary judgment. It has not been ruled on yet. They've had the hearings to argue the motion. They actually had those hearings in July. You see that here, where you had the arguments in hearing room 1,000 1,100. 0.01. I love that they're like in 0.01 of a room. That's always funny to me. But they had the hearing. They had the hearing on the motion. So at this point, the judge just has to rule on a summary judgment motion. Well, Disney, in an attempt to delay, because that is what Disney is best about, Disney has delayed this by filing a bunch of notices of intent, essentially motions to collect information. So Disney wants to collect all of this information. These 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 notices of intent, which, by the way, they could have filed as one document, but they decided to be assholes and file it as separate documents. So these different notices here, they could have filed as one. They didn't do that. This is their intent, to make the state produce a bunch of documents in order to slow things down, in order to control the narrative, go at their speed. They also filed a counterclaim and a petition. So they are counterclaiming against the CFTOD. So the CFTOD becomes a counter defendant. So now the CFTOD is both plaintiff and counter defendant. Disney is defendant and counter plaintiff. So that's the situation where we're at now. Also, an important thing is they tried to add Ron DeSantis to this. Ron DeSantis isn't even a party to this lawsuit, but they're trying to get information off of Ron DeSantis here. So they're trying to expand the state lawsuit into a federal lawsuit. It's not going to work, but for the time being, it is a tactic of delay. So that's where we're at right now. Before I go any further with this, let me get these good members. Merms, welcome back as a member. Good to see Merms. One of the good, the rare unicorn-based chicks out there. Actually, there's a lot of you base ladies out there. Shout out to you base ladies. And over here, joining once again. She was a member at one point, I believe, but now she's back, and it's much appreciated to be back in the membership for all of you that are rejoining this maybe a little bit later. So appreciate you, Merms, becoming a member once again. And also, big shout out to Steve C, who says, I refuse to comply with gay emojis. You can't make me. I can't make you, but I can tell you that Senpai would be very happy. Like I would be, you would make me very, very happy, Steve. If you just gave me a little emoji, if you just threw a little emoji out there. Just one. Just do it for old Uncle Mindset. I'll appreciate it. Yeah, unicorn emojis in the chat for all those unicorn ladies out there. Actually, I will say this too. There have been, at least there's one confirmed couple out of the Legal Mindset chat. One confirmed couple that have had one, maybe two kids at this point. Very interesting. The Legal Mindset chat place for love sometimes. A place for love. All right. So let's go into the court documents. And of course, I'm going to read through them. And this one I am going to read chunks of. But as always, in my way, I'm going to skim over what's not relevant and what's relevant and kind of get into the actual nitty gritty here. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with these new filings. We're going to only deal with these new filings. Now, we're not going to deal with the notice of service. That's kind of stupid. We don't need to look at a notice of service. That's just like, okay, we're going to give these people interrogatories. Okay, whatever. We're going to look at first the counterclaim petition, and then we're going to look at the response to the request to produce. So this one is filed by Disney, and this one is filed by Florida. And note this, and this is why I am really impressed by the state right now. Disney filed this attempted delay, all these documents, on the 27th. Well, the state filed a 33-page response on the 28th. You know that they triggered these guys and activated them. So they were up all night crafting this response and like just holding up a big middle finger to Disney, being like, actually, go F yourself. We don't want to produce these. We shouldn't have to produce these. This is voluminous. This is unnecessary. And you're going to need to pay for costs if you're going to want us to get this information. It's also going to unnecessarily delay this. So it's a big thing. It's a big thing. This amount of documents they wanted them to produce is actually, to be clear, it's thousands and thousands and thousands of documents, which would be without any limitation, which could cost the state hundreds of thousands of dollars to produce. It's something, or potentially even up there towards like $500,000. I mean, it's at the point it's unlimited. If it's from the beginning of time, it could cost a lot. And Disney didn't put a time cap on their document request, which is very, very, very problematic. So just wanted to throw that out there. Also, let me give a quick hello to everybody on Rumble. Good to see y'all. Grand May, Danielle, Freedom Furniture, Sean Connery versus Applesauce, all you over there on Rumble, and also the base chats and Stacy's over on Locals, Steve C. And I think got Danielle, a couple others over there on Locals. Appreciate y'all. All right. So first we're going to start with the counterclaim. So here we go. This is the actual counterclaim. The counterclaim for declaratory, injunctive, and other relief. This is filed in this case, obviously at 10:51 a.m. on the 28th. This is fresh off the presses. No one else has talked about this, not even the other channels. I think maybe in a stream or two, they may have mentioned, oh, there's something filed, but nobody has looked into this. As always, the only place to find this is here on The Legal Mindset. All right, so it is filed by Disney against the Central Florida Tourism Oversight District. Once again, the district, Central Florida Tourism Oversight District, I'm going to call it the CFTOD or the district, but this is the successor entity to Reedy Creek. Now, the parties are obviously Disney, CFTOD, and the jurisdiction is in Orange County. And now, what I want to point out here is for the factual background, they largely keep this the same. They largely keep the factual background the same. But some of the things they've added to this factual background in the counterclaims are some statements about mean things that senators said. So they went back and they found a bunch of mean stuff that senators said. The basic facts, like the location of RCID, now the CFTOD, the Disney being the primary landholder that accounts for 87.7% of the value. But importantly for this, let me focus on this, 87.7% is not 100%. They do not own 100% of the land. That's very clear. So there is a minority. It is a 13% minority there that owns other land in the district, and it's not Disney. So Disney cannot say, despite being the primary taxpayer, that they are the only taxpayer, that they are the only one affected. And therefore, they do not have standing to sue. It's also not an alter ego. It's not a company or subsidiary. RCID is a real government. It was a real government, the same thing as the CFTOD. So once again, just because something is a primary landowner, this is a pertinent fact. Just because it's a primary landowner does not make you the person who controls it, and it does not mean that Disney equals RCID. They thought that, they acted like that, but that was illegal, and that's why they're being investigated criminally right now. Stephanie Olson for $5, Cinco Dolores, says, love you, Andrew. I love you too, Stephanie. I love you too. I hope you're doing all right. Wherever you are in the world, know there's much love coming to you from Asia with love. I feel like that would be my Bond movie, From Asia with Love. From Asia with Love. Long time, of course. Always a long time. All right. So here is where everything goes wrong. Dun, dun, dun. Florida passed the Parental Rights and Education Act. Now, I will give Disney a little bit of credit here because, guys, people say, Andrew, you don't steel man Disney. You don't give Disney's perspective. Here's one. I'm going to give Disney credit. You ready for this? Ready for this? Strap in. Legal Mindset's about to compliment Disney. Ready? They didn't say the Don't Say Gay bill. I mean, that's about as accurate as the anti-grooming bill, but at least they didn't say it here. Now my inkling is they didn't say it here because they would be reprimanded by the judge. Because if you did that, the judge is going to call you out and say, yeah, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. So Ron DeSantis, so Disney at this point sent a bunch of tweets about this. So Iger sent tweets out, and this they don't put in here is that Iger tweeted on the bill. Lots of Disney people tweeted on the bill. Christine McCarthy commented on the bill. The CEO called DeSantis. DeSantis said, you shouldn't get involved. It's not going to work out well for you. Well, they should have listened, shouldn't they? And you know what's funny? Disney all of a sudden has adopted the strategy, according to Iger, has all of a sudden said they agree with him, that they agree with DeSantis, right? Because didn't Disney say they're going to step back from the culture war? So don't they agree that it doesn't work out well for them to F around and find out? Because now they found out, and now they're in it. Yes, by the way, these are AKG headphones. They're great. They're actually fantastic. Very comfortable, good audio quality. So Disney issued a statement that the goal for this company, the goal as a company, is for this law to be repealed by the legislature or struck down in the courts. Well, here's the thing. Disney never challenged the law. Disney never sued to overturn the law. Disney should have done that if it was really concerned. But instead, they decided to just bitch and moan about it. And of course, Disney, they caught a state representative saying, one state representative, Spencer Roach, saying, if Disney wants to embrace woke ideology, it seems fitting they should be regulated by Orange County. What is wrong with that statement? Nothing is wrong with that statement because Disney is not RCID. So if they're regulated by Orange County, that's something they have no control over. That can change at any time. The state can change that at any damn time they want for any reason. It's the state's prerogative. Now, you get another state representative, and mind you, these guys are finding one state representative out of hundreds of state representatives. Hundreds. Of course, when you find any bill, you're going to get one or two crazy guys who say, yep, that's exactly why it's adopted. Just because one representative is telling you why they are voting on it doesn't mean that's why it was adopted by the legislation as a whole. Does that make sense? You guys get that? Let me say that one more time. Just because one guy will vote on something for a bad reason doesn't mean it violates the legislation as a whole. For example, I'm going to use an argument here. Let's say there's a bill to protect women's sports that says only people who are biological females should compete in women's sports. So let's just say that's an argument. Let's say that's the bill, okay? That's the bill. It's a women's sports bill. So there's two different groups, and let's say there's multiple people saying this. One group says, I'm voting on this because I want to protect women. I love women. I care about women. And therefore, we should adopt this bill to protect biological women. And because men are physically superior in sports to women of comparable training and size and musculature, body fat percentage. They're superior, generally. Therefore, we're not going to allow it. But there's another group of people that they are in favor of this bill. But you know why? Because they are misogynists. They're dirty, evil, misogynists. Actually, you know what? We'll actually make them. We'll make them We'll make them misogynists. We'll make them misogynists. They're like, we're only doing this because we hate women, and we want to make sure that it's clear that women are always in second place. If you get a bunch of trans athletes, a bunch of men that are pretending to be women or saying they're women, and they start winning, well, then they'll actually be able to come close to male records. And then they'll be able to say, well, women are just as good as men. So we don't want them to prove that. We're super misogynist. So we're going to vote against this because we're misogynist. Guess what? It doesn't matter why they voted on the bill. It doesn't matter. There's a valid purpose. It is not arbitrary and capricious. One can come up with a reasonable, valid purpose. There exists a valid purpose for adopting a Protect Women's Sports bill. Likewise, comparing this to this case, there exists a valid purpose for prohibiting old state enacted governments, which, by the way, this actually disbanded 6 special districts, not just Disney, to be clear. So because there's a valid purpose, that's good enough. It's good enough. Dan Moore says, should Disney be forced to sell Disney World to the state of Florida? Hashtag bring back John Lasseter. That'd be great. Hey, if they were forced to do it, that'd be great. I don't see it happening, but I do see them potentially spinning off the parks into a separate business unit. I think that could make sense. I could see that making sense. I could see spinning off the parks, selling them off could make sense. And I honestly, if I were them and they brought me in there right now, first of all, I'd tell them to drop the lawsuits. If I was their corporate counsel and they brought me in as a consultant, not at in-house, because I'm not going to put my pronouns in the bio. But let's say they paid me $1 million to be their consultant right now, which, by the way, would be $1 million well spent. I would tell them right off the bat, number one, settle the lawsuits, get out of the lawsuits. Number two, spin off the parks. Separate the entertainment and the parks. Just let the parks be the parks. Sign a forever license agreement with them. It can be strict as hell. There can be no deviation from your control, but spin them off. You've got a separate entity running them, and they can run them in the most efficient way for business. I think there'd be people willing to buy it. I really do think there'd be people willing to buy it. Speaking of which, we just had here live 10 memberships gifted by Bella Stella. Appreciate you, Bella, for gifting those 10 memberships here on the YouTubes. I really appreciate that. And all the members out there today coming through big to turn it into a sea of green. Guys, make sure you click on Bella's gift and click accept gift membership so you can get those gift memberships and receive what has been given to thine. Yeah. See, like, for example, this is a good one. If Dirk says, I want men and women's sports, maybe make more than beach volleyball fun to watch. Hey, listen, some people might want it for whatever reasons. You could want it for whatever reason possible. And you could want it, for example, they could want men to be in women's sports so that women get hurt, right? That's an evil, horrible reason. right? Because they think it's going to end up in women getting hurt, which, by the way, in combat sports, physical sports, contact sports, that is what happens. If you look at MMA where men are fighting women, yeah, that does happen. Skulls get cracked. But you could have someone pass it for that reason. It doesn't matter that one individual held a nasty belief. That isn't proof that that's the only basis for that bill. Because one person had a nasty personal belief. Does not matter. So they added those nasty statements there. Not much there, though. Not much there, though, on the moan. So there they add a little more detail. Senate 4 seats set Reedy Creek to dissolve on June 1st, 2023. Amid a climate of escalating retaliation against Disney by the Florida government, Disney sought de-escalation. I'm calling bullshit here. Through several attempts to spark a productive dialogue with the DeSantis administration. You know what the de-escalation would have been? Withdrawing your tweets, apologizing, and saying, you know what, we're actually not going to get political, and we're going to stop that from now on. Keeping people's mouths shut. Keeping the Rachel Zeglers of the world keeping their mouths shut. That would have helped. But what they did was they wanted to secure their plans for future development, some of which are super speculative and will probably never happen. So they entered into some last-minute deals. Some last-minute deals. And here's where they got in trouble, and here's where the Florida lawsuit lies, is that they enacted these deals without notice on the very last days of RCID, right before the government transitioned to the control of the people of the state of Florida. And because of that, the district argues that they're invalid. And they're going to prove that, and they're likely to get summary judgment. However, Disney made all of these constitutional whining complaints in their federal case. Well, guess what? They've now brought in those complaints to the state case. They've dragged them over from the federal case where they dismissed them, where they said, you know what? We're going to move those over here. So they've dragged those down to state court. These loser arguments. These arguments they could have made to start with in state court, but they decided to wait because they thought they were going to get a woke federal judge who was going to overrule the state judge. Now they've seen that's not going to happen. They're going to lose in federal court, so they're trying to counterclaim for these in state court. Bella Stella said, thank you for covering this. Being in the UAE, we don't get news about this. On the other hand, people know Disney has gone too woke for Middle Eastern values, very haram. You know what's funny? I was speaking to a mom over here, and it was an English-speaking, a person of Asian descent over here in Asia, and they're English-speaking, but they knew that they can't let their kids watch Disney anymore, and they can't put Disney Plus on because they literally said to me, and this were their words before they knew my political beliefs at all whatsoever, they said, Disney is too woke. I can't trust my kids to watch Disney anymore. I was shocked. I was shocked that somebody's saying this halfway across the world. People are waking up all over the world. By the way, I see a lot of you giving shout outs to the Galaxy Bar Association. That's an inside joke from that insane motion that was filed by a kind of pro se guy trying to get attention. I covered that in a previous live. If you guys want to see the Galaxy Bar Association, check out one of my previous live streams. Absolutely, absolutely hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. Dave Sargent says, is Disney claiming owning RCID in the Fed-free trial? Yes, they're actually claiming that the positioning Disney has is that we are RCID. And because RCID has standing, we have standing. It's insane. It's insane. It's like saying that Apple has standing because they're Cupertino and they provide a lot of tax revenue to Cupertino. So anything that happens to Cupertino, they can sue for too. No, that's not legit. It's extremely flawed argument. Extremely flawed argument. But of course, that's going to be removed. Now, here we go. Here are their claims they dragged from the federal court. So they counterclaim saying breach of contract. So saying that those agreements, those development agreements, are written contracts as well as the restrictive covenants. And because the district and the legislature declared them void ab initio, therefore, that's a violation of contract. Now, the district has straight up said that they're not declaring them anything decisively. It's up to the courts to declare something void ab initio. All they did was approve bringing a lawsuit on those grounds. And that is completely correct. The proper venue is the judge, is the court, to invalidate a contract. If you want a contract invalidated, you go to court. So Disney is saying, well, these courts are already voided. Well, no, they're not. Until the court voids them, they're out there. They're out there. Now, the district takes the position that they are currently invalid. Disney takes the position they're valid, but that's why you sue. That's why you bring a lawsuit. So they're saying because they want to repudiate the contracts, that's a breach of contract. Well, no. See, here's the thing. It's not a breach of contract to go to a court to decide whether a contract is valid. The thing is, the only thing they've done is ask the court whether the contracts are valid or void. So there's no breach. So this whole count is such complete dog shit. It's ridiculous. Oh, sorry. Okay, I want to say real quick. I'll put it Danielle. Just hit the skip button if you get an ad now. YouTube is forcing them. They just it's a new YouTube thing. YouTube has changed a lot, guys. And frankly, please also make sure you're subscribed because YouTube has, they are trying to, with subscribers, I think they unsubscribed some folks. So make sure you're still subscribed. Make sure you're still tuned in, notification bell on, because they constantly try to test you. They constantly try to shut off some subs. So make sure you guys still sub, got those notifications on as well for the video. Skip the ads or have an ad blocker. It's all good in the hood. Also, shout to Rumble. If you want ad-free experience on Rumble, we're going in raw. So you've got lots of options here. As a direct proximate result of the repudiations, they claim they're damaged under contract law. Next, they want a declaratory relief. So a declaratory relief is a declaratory judgment. So they want the court to come out and say, as a declaration, that that these are invalid contracts. That's what. Sorry. So the state wants them, or CFTOD wants them to be invalid. Disney wants them to be affirmed as valid. I'm sorry. So Disney wants them to be affirmed as valid. The state wants them to be affirmed as invalid. Both sides are seeking declaratory relief. Now, declaratory relief is just the court making a declaration, but nothing is official until the court declares it thus. So both sides want the courts to declare the contracts once and forever invalid. Well, that's what CFTOD in Florida wants. Disney wants them to be valid so they can do whatever the hell they want. You can also have other types of relief at the same time as declaratory relief. So you can have at the same time as declaratory relief, you can ask for damages, monetary damages. You can ask for injunctive relief, which is stopping them from doing something. You can ask for all that. It's part of it. Is this live? So smash that like button, folks. Yes, guys, help me out there in the like. If you like this content, you like my constant coverage of this case, I have been on this case like Disney is on wokeifying all of its IP and most of its rides, by the way. Shout out to Tiana's Slave Mines because, in case you didn't catch it, the reskin of Splash Mountain is actually based on a location which was a notorious slave plantation. So, there's that. John Sapola says, who can stop Disney from these frivolous lawsuits? Well, Disney can stop Disney because their stock is crashing. The Disney stock, and let me just look it up right now. I know it's not doing well. It was in the 80s. It popped up, I think, to 81. We had a little minor blip here. But if we look at the long tail, we are on a definite, we're definitely in a bear trend. So we are definitely on a bear trend right now. Now, I'm no financial advisor, right? So don't go to the legal mindset here for your financial advice, because yeah, I'm definitely not the guy. But when you look at the finances here, it's pretty clear. Just basic graph go down, right? So we are in a broader general bear trend for them, and we have not seen the bottom. We have not seen the bottom just yet. So yeah, Disney's going to stop Disney with their own failures and competence. Kate C says, aka Snake Plush Kitten. That's actually funny. And it's got the little eye patch too. That's actually cute. It's actually cute. If Disney wins, won't Disney have their breach of the original agreement invalidated, causing Disney to be acting criminally? Well, yeah. So if Disney won here, they could still be sued under Florida law, because the way they were operating in the past was illegal. And also, if they're confirming that they are actually Disney, and that's just Disney is RCID, that would be confirming criminal behavior under other Florida statutes, which they could be sued under criminally or have action taken criminally, and also be an SEC violation because it'd violate their bonds. So if Disney was RCID, they are guilty of bond fraud. They are guilty of securities fraud. They're guilty of misrepresentation, fraudulent filings. Some people are going to jail for a very long time if that's the case. So Disney is really in a tough spot. And I don't think their lawyers kind of communicated this well enough, that even if Disney was to win, Disney is definitely not out of the woods on this one. They've got criminal liability. If you were paying attention when I covered the other day, the firefighter issue with the annual passes, yeah, there's criminal liability that potentially attaches there. So Disney is not out of the woods by far, guys, by far. I am waiting. It's going to happen. When they have enough evidence, when the timing is right, they're going to drop those criminal charges. Florida, I guarantee they're collecting the evidence right now. They're just building the case against Disney because Disney keeps digging in their behavior deeper into criminality. There's a reason why the management level resigned. We watched last episode in the CFTOD meeting. There was a woman during public comment who got up and she was talking about how all the leaders left. Well, they left because they were likely, of course, we need to see the proof here, right? And I'm saying it's an allegation. It's not proven yet. But they were likely involved in the illegal activities that went on when RCID was under Disney's control. And because of that, because they were likely participating in those people are out. Those people were fired. Those people were removed, as they should have been, because they were complicit in what may prove to be illegal activities under Florida law. So looking forward to that. That's going to be a fun one. David Mermain says, do you know who owns the other 13%? There's a list. I can pull it up. I can find it a little later, David. It's a mix mostly of hotels, some restaurants, but mostly hotels. Mostly hotels. So they own the largest swaths that are non-Disney are hotels. Some is owned by DOD, right? Shades of Green, for example. Or rather, they're the taxpayer. So they're paying taxes on that land. So sometimes, by the way, if you have a very long ground lease, you're trying to treat it as the taxpayer. Instead, like a life estate, you're treated as a taxpayer. So someone can technically not own the land to be the taxpayer. I know it sounds complicated, but just there's sometimes a distinction. Typically, the landowner is the taxpayer, but in some arrangements, there are taxpayers who are not the landowners. Just throwing that out there, guys. So I'm going to be very clear. There are other entities paying taxes. Because some people say, oh, well, Shades of Green has a long-term ground lease with Disney. Okay, well, it's the same thing. All right, next thing they're suing for is specific performance. Now, specific performance says, let us do what we want to do under the contract. And specific performance, pretty much under this, says, RCID, you are or rather CFTOD, you are Disney's bitch. So by specific performance, that says you need to be our bitch and do everything we say, because these contracts effectively said you do everything you want. You do anything you want. And so that's what Disney wants. They want them to bend the knee because that's what Disney likes. They like people that are compliant, sit down, that bend the knee. Oh, I want to get this one funny. So Follow the Bradley's Fun says, it's so weird that Bonnet Creek area is its own thing. So I used to represent Bonnet Creek, full disclosure. So I'm very transparent about that. I used to represent the Bonnet Creek district, the Bonnet Creek Community Development District, right? That district was owned by some Taiwanese interests that may or may not have been related to Chiang Kai-shek back in the day, right? And when they were approached by some sketchy Californians who were like, you should sell us this land. They're like, you know what? No. And they're like, are you sure? They're like, no. And then they eventually revealed that they were Disney and they threatened them. They're like, hey, we're going to cut you off. They're like, good luck. Didn't do it. Was totally fine. Eventually had a nice resorts developed over there. It is totally independent of Disney. But of course, when I was counsel for them, I did have to do a lot of negotiating with RCID. So that was one of the clients among many that I had to negotiate with RCID, in addition to Celebration. So that's why I know when I say I've sat across the table from these people and their ethics are not the best. We'll just call it that. Just call it that. John Jalan said, a fraction of Fed cash for you. Appreciate it. Hey, listen, it's not an American dollar, but I still will take it no matter what, because I am a shill, shyster lawyer, a greedy capitalist, and I appreciate it. And frankly, I will say this, guys, your support really helps me out. This month has not been a crazy month for me. In fact, it's been a rather slow month. I've been really busy working on a lot of things. I got a conference coming up in Tokyo in October. I've got a course I'm teaching, a business law course. I've been doing a lot of other projects here. Been trying to readjust how I do my channels. I'm doing them a little differently. Go East Gentlemen, I've been busy with consultations there, but I do appreciate all your support because it helps me do this on a regular basis and do it regularly. So seriously, guys, much appreciated. Much appreciated for all of you. It all matters, and I all appreciate you. Now, let's get back to this. So we had specific reports, count 3. Let's go to count 4. Another injunctive relief. So they want more injunctive relief to the extent that they want them to comply with the agreement. So they're kind of saying, okay, we want you to say the agreement is valid, and then we want to force you to comply with it through specific performance and injunctive relief. Next, Article 5 is a breach of duty of good faith and fair dealing. This one is hilarious. So good faith and fair dealing is an implied duty in a contract. And yes, I said duty. You can laugh now. You can also put Amber Turd emojis in the chat. Amber Turd, a good stand-in for duty. So good faith and fair dealing is an implied trait of every contract. Whenever you have a contract, it is implied that you will exercise that contract in good faith and fair dealing, which means don't screw the other dude over. So don't go out there and you're supposed to sell him 100 chickens and you give him small turkeys. You're supposed to sell him 100 baby pigs and you give him rat meat. You give him a bunch of rats. That's violating a deal of good faith and fair deal. You're not giving them what you want. You're not dealing in fair. Or you're doing something even shadier. For example, the guy orders 100 chairs. You give him 100 chairs, but they're baby chairs. Like for small people. What do we call them nowadays? Like little people chairs. Not the same. Kitty Bear with a 99 euro super sticker. Appreciate you with that turd super sticker. It's always appreciated. The turd for the turds. And Nancy says for $4.99, your grift has gotten weak. You have some pity money. Screw you, Nancy. Screw you. Such a hater. You're such a hater. I wish the worst on you and wish for you to be forever alone. I'm kidding. Appreciate you, Nancy, one of the OGs in the chat. Good to see some of the old people coming out here to make fun of me. It's been a while since I have good hecklers. Like, step up your game, hecklers. Come on. Come on, get good. Like, do it the Nancy way. That's actually not even that good, but you can get better. You can do better. I've seen better. Seen people with dead eggs do better. All right, so good faith and fair dealing. They're saying that the district is breached that duty because the district sued them. It's not a breach of a contract to sue you. Just suing somebody is not a breach of good faith and fair dealing. They actually haven't denied any development. Disney has not come out there with something they want to tangibly develop. Like, for example, Disney has not come out there yet and said, we want to build a new land. We want to build, a new, what's the one? Encanto Land. They talked about building Encanto Land, right? Encanto Land behind Fantasyland, behind Big Thunder Mountain. They want to build Encanto Land. They talked about the concept. They haven't put out the plans. They haven't applied and got rejected. What you need to do is you need to actually go out there. When you don't actually put out something like that, the claim is what we call not ripe. Not ripe. Speaking of not ripe, Nancy says, damn, at least your roasting skills are on point. You know it, Nancy. You know it. I will roast everybody and anybody. I don't just roast beta law tubers that are very much white bread. That's the quote. Large nose, white bread, beta, alcoholic law tubers. I don't just roast them. I roast other people too. All right. And by the way, you pay me, I will roast you. I will roast you. Florida Constitutional Contracts Clause violation. Now, I love how they changed this. So this originally was a federal and a Florida, but now they're just making it the Florida Contracts Clause. So you're just arguing under the Florida Contracts. Now, always, by the way, the state contracts clause will be stronger than the federal because you can never be weaker than the federal, but you can add on rights beyond the federal rights. So your federal rights are your floor, but the ceiling can go higher. The ceiling can go higher. So they're alleging that because the Constitution said that the state should make no law impairing the obligation of contracts, impairing means to make worse, to diminish in quality. So the district making a legislative declaration in Senate Bill 1604 violate their contract clause and thus make their claims weaker, make their contract weaker. Well, that's just a breach of contract. It's not okay. It's not them interfering in it. It's not valid. If it's not a valid contract, it's not valid. They're seeking the court to say that. Also, an important thing is here, they bring up the fact that they really are suing over Senate Bill 1604. But the funny thing is that that's a state bill and they haven't sued the state of Florida. They haven't sued the state of Florida. The state of Florida is not a party here. Let's go back to page 1. Let's look at who the parties are. The party is the Central Florida Tourism Oversight District, which is appointed by the state, but it's not the state itself. And Disney, it is not a suit against the state or even against Ron DeSantis. And once again, the only standard they have to hold this up to be valid from a legislative standpoint is it arbitrary and capricious? If the answer is no, if it's not arbitrary, then it's okay. It's fine. It's all good. All good in the hood. All good in the hood. And once again, I love the complaints of Disney here. Neither the district nor the legislature has identified any legitimate reason or need to treat the contracts differently from other long-term development agreements entered into developers by their special districts. So Disney wants to whine that, oh, you're picking on me. Oh, no. Well, guess what? Other agreements are adopted legally. Do you know why? Because I did them. I busted my ass. I was paid 6 figures to make sure this shit was done right. But your sloppy ass attorneys, which were probably paid millions of dollars over the course of their careers, were not able to do this legally. They probably weren't able to do it legally because it was rushed and your requirements were changing day to day. But other places do it legally. That's a legitimate reason. A legitimate reason is what you did was illegal. It didn't fit the statute, bruh. So yeah, that's a very legitimate legal reason to terminate a contract. Say a contract is invalid because it's not legal. Then of course they say it's a taking, right? So they say they're claiming eminent domain. You're taking their private property. This is a huge stretch because the thing is they're trying to claim the development rights, the right to develop, to build is their property right. Now that is a niche argument. I will say as a person in Florida law, this is a niche argument. You can make the argument, but it's on the edge, and courts in Florida are actually split over this concept. They don't all agree that development rights are actually rights that are subject to takings claims. However, entertaining this argument, you can't take what hasn't been deprived. Disney hasn't been deprived of the right to build anything. Thus, nothing has been taken so far. They're trying to argue that the contractual rights as well, that the rights of the contracts and having the contracts themselves are a right that was taken away from them. But if the contract was invalid, you never had a right in the first place. You didn't own anything in the first place. There's no valid contract. You didn't know anything in the first place. This is what it is. And of course, we have our favorite argument of the day, the free speech argument. The free speech argument. Here we are, ladies and gentlemen, free speech. So they claim that Disney's statements were political speech. And therefore, the district revoking the contract was trying to chill the speech. Well, guess what? Disney was speaking on a state bill. The district, which is the only party, didn't talk about the bills at all. They invalidated the contracts for a very legitimate reason, not because of the Don't Say Gay bill, because they were illegal. So there's no speech involved here at all. It's their last argument. It's argument number 9, which is their last argument here. You can see because it is the weakest argument. It is very much the weakest argument. So that's what we got for Disney and their claims. And I will say this, by the way, they do, just to show you guys, that was them mirroring their cases. But what they do is, in the state case, they also go ahead. There is a count 10 and a count 11 and all that. But what they do is they just make the federal claims. So they go back and they mirror all the claims, but just say, okay, we're making a state, we're making a federal claim. This is unnecessarily voluminous. It's unnecessarily repetitive. And it's for one purpose and one purpose alone. All of this is for delay, 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 delay. The longer this goes into the election, the more they can make this about Ron DeSantis, the more they can make this about anything else but them. They want to delay this as much as possible. And this is certainly a delay tactic. Get some supers here. Andrew Hansen says, haven't tried to build a rainbow fairy guy land yet. Not yet, but they're coming. It's coming. The Tinkerbell's Magical Transing Workshop is coming to a Disneyland near you. Not in Asia, because they've maintained control of that. And you know the CCP wouldn't allow that in Shanghai. However, it'll come to Disneyland, California for sure. Newsom's down with the clown. You know what I'm saying? Louis Sevas says, you've seen better hecklers. I've seen better law tubers like Legal Cuck. Oh, no. Wait, which cuck? Which cuck are you talking about? Are you calling Nick Rekieta, Legal Eagle, Leonard French? Who's the cuck in question here? I mean, there's a lot of them out there. So you get Luis, you need to be specific, hombre. You need to be specific. FYI, Encanto Land is south of the border. Oh no. They're going to put Encanto Land in Eagle Pass, Texas. Encanto is going to be in Eagle Pass, Texas. It's going to be great. It's going to be great. Benny Turkoff says, have you heard about the latest Nick drama? Yes, I have. I haven't talked about it, and it's not of topic for this, but maybe I'll weigh in on it. Maybe I'll weigh in on it. It's possible. Not in this stream, though. Maybe in the future. I'm planning to do tomorrow just a general news day. So if people pay me a super chat, I will answer my honest opinion on whatever drama is on the internet. Any drama. I'll come at them all. Speaking of which, the state of Florida didn't sit down and take it. So what I just read you here was this counterclaim. So this was this counterclaim here that was filed by Disney. Now what we're going to read you, now what I'm going to bring you is this response to the request to produce. This is possibly one of the most fun-based documents I have ever seen in my life. In my life. But before that, we got some bad commentary from a certain fat Steven Seagal who says, "What's that hanging from your nose?" Rickroll. What's all that brown? It's all that brown from sucking up to all of you schmucks. Good to see you guys in the chat. And over there on Rumble, appreciate y'all your Rumble rants. Shut the fat Steven Seagal. Well, watched Under Siege like 2 or 3 weeks ago. That was a good one. It's a classic one. And exactly what I want for my birthday. If you know what I mean. It's exactly the type of birthday cake I want. If you guys have seen Under Siege, you can deliver that to me anytime. Let's see. Okay, so we're going to jump right into this. So this is the state clapping back at Disney for asking them to produce all these documents. And this, to me, there's some lines in here that are absolutely great. So they are responding to their request to produce documents. So let's read this here for a second. So first, the district objects to the request for production to the extent it seeks to collect information protected by attorney-client privilege, accountant client, work product, common interest, joint defense, legislative, or other privileges. So Disney just requested all emails, all documents. They said, hey, state of Florida, give us every single document ever on special districts. That's millions of documents, by the way. We're talking emails, contracts, filings, statutes, legislative files, everything else. There are millions of documents involving special districts. They requested all of that. Some of that's protected because some of that's between them and their attorneys. So that's not coming up. This isn't the Trump case where you can just get all this attorney-client privilege information in, RIP Trump, who literally has had all of his attorney-client privilege breached. By the way, the fact that the American Bar Association is not jumping up and down, raging at this gross breach of attorney-client privilege in the Trump case is a shame, and it shows how leftist that organization is. Just by the way, attorneys of all political stripes should really defend that right strongly, because once they take it away, it doesn't exist anymore, and attorneys are screwed. Fat Steven JFG said, schmuck, I am an 80s action god and deity. Thank you very much. Well, Fat Steven, you're a god and deity of the 80s because they don't let you out of the 80s. You're too offensive in the 90s. You got canceled in the 2000s. Stay in the 80s where you belong, Fat Steven. Stay back there. Stay there. Sit. Good, Steven. Or go to Russia. Russia and Steven Seagal are cool. They're all right. They're all right. All right. So they're requesting to the privileged information. Next, there's confidential information. That's different. That's different. So they're saying they have right to withhold it until the court gives a protective order, which is very much true. Next, they object to definitions instructions where they seek to impose different requirements in the Florida Rules of Civil Procedure. So Disney is trying to violate the actual rules of the game because Disney doesn't play by any rules. They don't play by the state's rules. They don't play by the court's rules. Disney just asks for stuff and they expect you to bend over and give it to them. Just the way it is. They also, and this is my biggest one that I thought is insane, The district objects to the defendant's definition of communications as overbroad because it is not limited in time or scope to the relevant subject matter to this action. There it is right there, ladies and gentlemen. This is the number one issue that I've seen go on in cases, and this is a reason for rejecting alone. This is enough reason for rejecting the request because they do not give a time limit. You cannot say, send me all your emails from the beginning of time. Most of the emails you sent from the beginning of time, first of all, are deleted. They're not even around anymore. And second of all, it's too many. It's not relevant. It's overly burdensome. It's overly broad. It's just an attempt to delay. And that's what they're doing. It objects to this definition as unduly burdensome and overly oppressive because it contains information outside of the district's control. Yeah, no shit. There's a lot of stuff in there that is far beyond the scope of this lawsuit. And just for that, Disney is going to have an issue with its request for production. But here's what Disney's going to do. They're going to say, mi scusi, let me limit this. And then they're going to say, we want it for the last 20 years. And then they're going to have to go back and do this again. This is how Disney delays. Guys, never, ever, ever, ever underestimate Disney's level of procedural fuckery. They always will come in and try to pull some sort of procedural games. This is what their lawyers are good at. Their lawyers are not good at substantive argument. They're good at procedural tricks. They're good at delays. They're good at running the costs up. That's what Disney does. That's their expertise. JL says the bar has always been corrupt. Just look at how they handled Tom Giraldi. Yeah, they've handled a lot of things poorly, a lot of cases very, very, very poorly. I'm not a super expert in Tom Girardi. I'm generally familiar with it, but they've screwed over a lot of people. And frankly, what they look at is very specific. They try to get you for wrongthink, not necessarily for being a criminal. So, for example, the bar will allow in criminals, but God forbid you think the wrong thing. Well, then the bar's going to come a knocking. And all the professional organizations are being used that way. Look at Jordan Peterson. They're coming for his licensure. They're making him take an infinite level of reprogramming until he's reprogrammed. That's the way they're all going. The Brits, the Brits. Someone mentioned British law in the chat. The lawyers are just one of the last professions to get there, but they'll get there. They're getting woke. Even in Texas, by the way. Even in Texas. No state is going to be spared. So a couple other comments here that are really nice. They object to the development agreement and restrictive covenants to the extent those definitions suggest the agreements were validly approved or entered into, because they weren't. They were illegal. They also ask for all electronically stored information, including information that is cumulative and duplicative. They're asking for literally everything on a computer. It's too much information, and there's a lot of unrelevant stuff that's going to be just like random files, backup, other stuff that's not relevant to the case. So this is the standard here, and they state this correctly because I've done these document productions. You're only entitled to produce them as they're kept in the usual course of business or as produced in a usable format and identified to correspond with categories in the applicable respects. So typically it's just as they're stored. So you're just sending them over as they're stored in whatever file they are. So if it's a JPG, it's a JPG. They don't convert that for you. They don't make it easier to read for you. They just send you the raw files. That's why discovery is so annoying to go through. Let's get into some of these specific objections. These are hilarious to me. So watch this. In addition to the other objections, the district objects to this request as overly broad, unduly oppressive, and an improper fishing expedition. I love a good fishing expedition. This is a key word for you guys out there, for you lawtists. Fishing expedition is the slander you bring out here, that when people are just looking for stuff, they don't know what they're looking for, and they're going looking for stuff. You call it a fishing expedition because they don't know what they're looking for. They're just trying to get all the documents and see what they can find. Second of all, here's a good one. They're asking for all the contracts of the district. Well, guess what? The district is a local government that existed since 1967. It has thousands of contracts. Requesting the district comb through not only all of its contracts, but all documents related to the contracts is tantamount to harassment. I love that. I love that. Because, I mean, it is. It's just saying, hey, look, you've got to go through every single contract, pick out what's relevant, and send it over. It's unnecessary. Completely unnecessary. Here is a great one too. I love this. The district objects to this request because it is not clear whether defendant is seeking documents that predate 2023. If the defendant is seeking documents that predate 2023, the district further objects that the request is overly broad, and also such documents are irrelevant to the subject matter of this action. Because it's the CFTOD that's suing, not our CID. It's also not clear whose awareness, this is great. Hold on. It's not clear whose awareness is the focus of the request, as the district is a government entity, yet defendant has defined you to include numerous individuals. This is Disney's problem. They think you means everybody. They don't understand governments are governments. They're not the same as individuals. And Disney does not make a distinction between government and individuals. They just can't stop making this same mistake of confusing the government for a corporation or a person. It's not. And they messed up with that. They messed up with that. It's very, 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 very interesting. Okay, so this is a great one. Document request number 11. The document sufficiently to identify all attendees in person or Zoom at these meetings. So they want people to prove who came to the public meeting. Right? That is insane. That is insane. First of all, you don't necessarily keep a log of who comes to a public meeting. If someone wants to, by the way, if someone at a meeting wants to make you sign something, you do not have to do that to attend a public meeting. You do not have to sign down a document to attend a public meeting. And even if you did, your name could suddenly become John Hancock. Just saying. But also, those meetings were under our CID. They were under Disney control. Disney knows who was there. Disney knows damn well who was at those meetings. So Disney is just asking because they want to show that there was relatively few people there because it was kangaroo court. It was a Disney-run meeting. Everybody knew Disney was going to approve what Disney controlled. So those are the really, really, really good one. But also, here's the last one. The last one I want to go through here in this case, which is the district is not required. This is objecting to a request about an analysis of the restrictive covenants. They want them to deliver all documents related to an analysis of the restrictive covenants. I love this. This is a great one. The district is not required to prepare the defendant's case, and this request is improperly calculated to annoy and harass the district. Literally, Disney is asking for the background analysis because it didn't do the homework, so it wants to cheat off the district's homework. It literally is trying to copy the district's homework. Hilarious. Absolutely, positively hilarious. But of course, that's the Disney way. Of course, that is the Disney. There's 100% the Disney way. Is hey, we can't win, so we're going to cheat. We're going to cheat. We didn't actually do our homework. So what we're going to do is we're going to steal your homework. We're going to cheat off of it, and on top of that, we're going to find out where your analysis has an issue in it, and we're going to use that as a defense. Disney lawyers, I'm going to say one thing. They are good at delaying. They are very good at delaying. And I said this from the beginning. They're not good on Florida law. They do not know Florida law. but they do know how to delay. They absolutely 100% know how to delay. Let me get this one here. Fat Steven says, do Disney lawyers wear helmets all the time? Not all of the time, but when they do, they are extra specially dumb. They are extra specially idiotic. And this is absolutely 100% yet another idiotic request. Over here on Rumble, $2. Fat Steven Seagal says, this schmuck is now grifting his Rumble. Follow me. Much respect, Andrew. Yes, guys, go follow Fat Steven on Rumble and on YouTube. Fat Steven, good friend of the show. I sometimes let him in here because we need fat representation. Fats have rights too, as shown at Disney, where you get the carts, you get to bumble around. Fats have rights too. So, okay, in this, now that we've seen the documents, what's my analysis? What's my legal analysis of these two documents? So there is going to be a limitation of the production of evidence. But more importantly, we have an outstanding summary judgment motion. I think Disney, when the judge looks at this and they say Disney is really trying to delay here, and they look at this information and they say Disney is actively trying to delay this case. They're actively trying to go as slow as possible to say, okay, we're going to make them produce a bunch of discovery. We're going to make them dig through a bunch of documents. We're going to make this costly for the district. Yeah, the judge is going to be like, okay, I see what's going on here. Ruling against you for the district. Case over. Summary judgment done. Done. And then on top of that, the craziest thing is, all of these documents they want them to produce, guess who would be paying for those costs? Disney. Disney will be assessed for those costs. 87% will go to Disney. Now, there will be a 13% that will go to other taxpayers. They will also pay, but 87% is going to go. So Disney is paying 187%. If my lawyer math is right, I know lawyers don't trust lawyer math. It's kind of sketchy. But they're going to pay 187% in terms of legal costs because they're paying 100% of their own and the districts. So, yeah, they're paying on both ends, coming and going. They're going to be paying this bill. So Disney is going to be absolutely shooting itself in the foot here. And they can issue a special, this is something I've said from the beginning, and Disney doesn't know this. They've been playing ignorant here. The district can issue a special assessment at any time for these costs and levy a special lien on Disney's property. It's another thing people don't know about. People don't know about special assessments, special liens. They don't understand how they work. At any time, the district can come out and place a special assessment for this lawsuit. Yeah, that's right. So Disney is going to take this L. They're going to take this L so hard, no matter how much they try to fight back. It's just not going to work for them. Just simply not going to work for them. Also, I want to give a big shout out, guys, for all of you guys coming here. Thank you. Make sure you smash the like button in here. I want to give a quick shout out to Merms. Merms gave 10 legal mindset memberships. So 10 of you now have legal mindset memberships. Thanks to Merms. So say thank you to Merms in the chat. Click accept gift membership, turn into a sea of green, a sea of base Chads and Stacy's, and make sure you're tuned in for that. That being said, guys, after you base Chads and Stacy's, accept those, what you got to do is stay tuned here. Do not go anywhere. Because this live is going to transition like a Disney bibbity bobbity boop employee. It's going to transition to my premiere, which I will be in the chat live on Bambi. It's some crazy stuff. And it's my most edited video ever. I've never done this level of editing. I want your opinion on whether you like it, you hate it, it's horrible, it's great. Check it out. It's going to premiere right now. So you're going to be sending directed right over to that. You'll see it over here. Live action remake. You see it kicking off here in a minute. Bambi live action remake, updated to the modern agenda to talk all about how they're going to make that one woke. So that being said, hang in there, guys. See you over there in the premiere. Catch you later. Peace.